Good morning, all. Today on this Sunday, I would like to talk to you about Nginx. Welcome to all, and you guys can hear me properly. Is there any issues in hearing me? Could you please confirm that?
Yeah, we can hear. I can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can you give me permission for recording?
Recording, I guess, yeah, 1 second. Let me see that. Anyway, I will record this and I will put it on the YouTube, but still I will give it. Okay, I given it, you can check that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you and welcome. And moreover, after a long time, because there was a new year and some kind of family gatherings and other things around, so I couldn't conduct any kind of like this free seminars or something. But this time I got a time, so I thought I can talk about something on energy. This I prepared a very heavy long back. I was working on Tomcat servers and Nginx load balancers. Like little bit of DevOps stuff which I was working on earlier. Means still it's going on. A lot of projects are going on in our place. So I thought, why shouldn't I talk about something on the Nginx load balancer? Because I am working on a many load balancers as well. Load balancers in the sense it is a FI is a number one. There is no one can defeat that. No one can deny that. FI is number one. A10 is there, and Citrix Netscalers are there. And a lot of other boxes are there, like many people are supporting that. Even Fortinet is also having kind of load balancer stuff is there. And a lot of Taiwanese companies are also producing a lot of load balancers in the market. But how much it is going to be effective and how people are looking for that, what are the features they are looking for in that, and how good is it in the market, like how is the market share for that particular load balancers in the market, and how good is it getting implemented on the cloud. That is a more important point now, because everyone is looking for the implementation has to be done on the cloud. It is not only on the on-premises or in the local data centers. They look for the things need to be implemented on any part of the cloud, like either it is in AWS or Microsoft Azure, or maybe on the Google Cloud or any other DigitalOcean. Many other clouds are also there, because I am working on many clouds as well. Like AWS is number one anyway. 80% of the installations are happening on AWS, and other things also. Azure is also a lot of projects which are going on. But we are looking for today that about the load balancer market. Load balancers FI is number one, because FI is also producing the many other modules as well. It is not only the load balancers they are looking on. They are doing like a GTM, that is a global traffic manager, and the ASM is an application security module. On the APM, there is application policy module, access policy module. Like many other modules are also getting integrated to the FI. And FI is undoubtedly, I can just say that they are the number one in the market, but they are doing a very good job. And their support is also very good. So when I am just calling the people now, they're very helpful, and their database is so huge. So we can have the solutions can be like a non-error database. They have the KEDs or whatever it comes. So within that, we can able to solve all the problems. And the support is also very good. But still, FI is a proprietary. Again, I can just say that it's a proprietary like a Cisco and Juniper like that. So whatever the solution you're looking for and whatever the the problems you're looking for, you just need to contact FI people only. It's like a contracted support. SLA you just need to sign on. Like some corporate stuff is just going on with it. Yeah, it's okay because they are good at the market and they are doing a lot of good help and other things. But still, people are nowadays they are looking for something on an open source. Why it is an open source? Because a lot of applications which are coming as an open source, and Kubernetes is an open source, Docker is an open source, Terraform is completely an open source. We are implementing a lot of solutions on Terraform. I did one video on Terraform also. It's in the YouTube. You can find out in my channel. So Terraform, like that, so many kind of Terraform is for like globalizing the cloud implementations. Like you can do some lot of implementations on the cloud by using the Terraform code, uniform code like that. You can just write with one code. You can implement a lot of the applications and services on the multiple clouds. Rather, it can be AWS, or it can be Azure, or it can be in Google Cloud or something. So it's very much possible. So the total IT market is moving towards the open source environment. We are all looking for that. Open source in the sense it is very easy to customize and very easy for us to harden the things, and we can take it on our own things like that. We don't need to pay any money for the people to utilizing those things. Licensing stuff is not there. Per user license or per bandwidth license, nothing has been there as such. FI has got a very strict bandwidth license and other things. When you go to the AWS marketplace, if you find it on an FI, you'll be having the 200 Mbps, 1 Gbps, 2 Gbps, 5 Gbps, according to the bandwidth selections and all. The model which we select, the price difference is been the SLA is also been different, and the price difference is also there. So like every company, definitely they'll be putting, otherwise they'll not be able to make the money. That's a different issue. But as like an implementer, the people are looking for, and even the corporates are looking for that any kind of an open source solution is there. You just go and find out there and we'll do that with that. Like they are also very open to that one because they would like to try it in the local on-premises devices first. If it is going on very fine, now it is working without any problems and all like that. They have tried to implement it in their own production itself. That's how the Nginx has been implemented on that. Nginx is a complete open source. And Nginx has been there in the market for quite a long time. I can say that around 6 years, 7 years, it's there. And what is the most beautiful factor is that Nginx has been acquired by the FI. The FI is acquired the Nginx, and they produce something called as an Nginx Plus. But still, Nginx is still free. We can download and we can integrate it with that. But Nginx Plus is the cost. You just need to pay for that. Nginx Plus, what they're offering, and what going to be the solutions for that, what's kind of a support which we'll be getting on this corporate support, like a 24/7 365 days support and other things. That is an Nginx Plus, it is called as. It's not a proper Nginx. Means that is the proprietary content has been added to that, and they will be adding some more features and solutions towards that Nginx Plus, and they selling that in the market. It depends on like which one you would like to choose, whether you go for Nginx or plain Nginx or Nginx Plus or something. But we will be starting with an Nginx only. Like any company, any people would like to try it out. Any engineer would like to try it out in the sense they'll go for an Nginx Plus, Nginx first. So it is Nginx is very easier to install. And again, I would like to tell you something very much, the undercurrent of the things like you should be knowing about Linux very well. You should know about the Linux very well. Then you can ask me whether I can implement the Nginx in a Windows platform. Yes, very much possible. Nginx exe files are available. You can implement that. But how much you can do for the tuning and going for somebody is asking a question. Is this Linux based or work on Windows? Okay, Sanjay Rawat. I given the answer. Sanjay, thanks for asking this question. Linux, not only on Linux, but it can be implemented on Windows also. Nginx load balancers. Okay, I answered your question anyway. So how much you can implement that? What are the solutions you can do? What are the tunings which we can make on that? But I would like to say that Nginx can be implemented so beautifully, and a lot of tunings can be done on a Linux platform. Why I'm promoting the Linux platform? Because I am a Linux guy. I like Linux a lot of things because I'm working on Linux for the last 12 plus years, a lot of things. Work on Red Hat, work on CentOS, working on Ubuntu, Linux Mint, whatnot. Okay. There is a new Linux, a small container like that Linux, a BusyBox something has come. I just shared with the friends earlier in my group or something. You can just go through that. What is required for to run for as an application or something? Only that much is involved in that. Installed in that BusyBox something. There is so many things can be done. You are completely free. Your total freedom is there when you just download a source code of an Linux kernel, and you can start building on your own applications, and you can start utilizing on your own. Like it's a completely like a free bird. You can just take that and you can start implementing. But Windows platform is very much restricted. Everyone knows that because it is a corporate. Okay, I don't want to get into that hassles anymore. Nginx can be properly implemented and it can be tuned and it can work with it very much of freedom in the Linux platform. That's why I would like to say that. Okay, anyway, Linux with Nginx. We are going to see that today. Linux, I implemented this Nginx on an Ubuntu platform. Then you can ask me, why can't I implement on CentOS or Red Hat? Definitely it is possible. It is a Linux platform. Overall, it is going to be generalized. I can like to say that's generalizing that is in a Linux platform. I installed it. But I would like to show it to my peoples and other people like that. So Ubuntu people are looking for Ubuntu because Ubuntu is having a good GUI and it's look like a Windows and people doesn't have to know about a lot of Linux to work on Ubuntu because it is more of a user friendly. And many things people are saying that okay, I'm not denying that. I'm agreeing 100%. But Linux is not made for that. User friendly in the sense it is not for GUI, it's not for gaming, it's not for playing, and it is not for entertainment stuff or something. But Linux is for hardcore people who would like to do some kind of a coding, and they would like to do some kind of an R&D, and they would like to develop something. The new things are for that only. The Linux is. But okay. I would like to say that the Ubuntu has made the promotions of the Linux by making it more generalizing, reaching out the people to have some more, like coming towards a Linux or something. Okay, I appreciate that. But I'm going to show that Linux, Ubuntu Linux, how does it, the Nginx has been deployed on that one. Like, okay, this is a lot about that Nginx, but I would like to tell about that what Nginx can do. Nginx is doing what not. It is doing the web server, it can do the load balancer, it can do the reverse proxy, it can do the forward proxy, and it can do the normal proxying. Okay, and it can talk to the any protocol, HTTP, HTTPS, gRPC, so many other protocols. Because it is an open source, they developed it so very heavily. And how do you compare that Nginx with the normal Apache web server, which we call Apache is there. Apache is there. Nobody can deny that. Nobody can remove that. Apache has got released some Tomcat also. I'm going to show these practicals on a Tomcat with Nginx load balancer something. Tomcat is also like Tomcat has been developed with the Java platform. Like Nginx is also, I guess it has been on Java. Maybe I don't know. I can refer the doc and I can tell you. But Nginx is very, very nice to configure, very easy to configure. So there are some configuration files are there and tune up things over. We can start that, we can stop that very easily. And you can verify that how the load balancing stuff is working on, but how does it talking to the servers and backend servers, and how does it talking to the outside? How does it doing the adding operations? Like network address translation. Everything is based on completely a networking thing because I'm from the networking background on that, so that's why. So we used to do some lot of R&Ds. That is my job. Need to find out new things in the market and find out things whether it's going to work, fit our environment. Can we give it to our customers when they're looking for a different solutions or something? It's like a solution architect I'm working on, like a technical architect. So like a solution architect, I just need to go and give some kind of a seminars, like some kind of presentation. I just need to give it like so. That's my job. I enjoy that. So this every Sundays I'm talking to all the people like this. Okay, so we are going to talk about the Nginx. How does it getting implemented on the Linux and proxying, load balancing? Like this is more would like to be into the concerns more of this. Proxying, okay, proxy server is going to talk from the internal to outside. People are getting connected to the internet from the internal network. From the private network and the public network that people are going for. Every other your broadband modem is doing the same thing. So how does it getting differentiated with the Nginx? We will see that. And how does it doing the load balancing? How does it working like a web server? Nginx web server is possible. We can do that. And how good is that? How you can compare this product with the Apache Tomcat, Apache web server, Apache normal web servers, and a lot of other web servers also available. IIS is also there in Windows. Internet Information Server they call. Like we will be seeing that. Before that, I would like to start with some kind of reverse proxy, forward proxy, load balancing, this stuff. Yeah, somebody is pinging again. What about cPanel? Yeah, there are so many things are there. Yeah, like Sanjay said, there are so many things are there. I see because I am just evaluating this product, so I just made the cPanel is also there, and I guess in some of the slide in this coming up in the next slides and all, cPanel may be there. That is also there. It's also there. But I would like to, like digging more about the cPanel, then I can talk about that. Okay. If I know the stuff, I'll speak. Otherwise, I don't speak. That's more. It's a safer side. I just would like to be there. Okay. cPanel also may be there. Yes, I can understand that. So now we will talk about the more concept wise, like what is a proxy and what is a reverse proxy and what is a forward proxy and what is a load balancing stuff, what NAT is doing it, what is the source NAT, what is the destination NAT, like what is the sticky sessions, what is the cookie based, like resolving the things, and how the TLS SSL layer has been, how does it been maintained, how the HTTPS session has been maintained on that. These are all quite a normal stuff which we need to understand before going into the load balancing stuff. F5, last 7 to 8 years, I'm working on completely on F5, all the modules, not only on local traffic manager, I'm working on global traffic manager that is named as a DNS now. And the application policies manager and forward this one like a firewall thing that is an ASM modules. It can be integrated to that. I used to conduct some sessions also for that also, F5 lab. So got to know that F5 has been acquired the Nginx and they start doing some kind of developments over there. But before that itself, Nginx, everyone knows that. Right. So we will be starting something about that concept wise. Coming up slides will be on a concept like what is a reverse proxy? What is a forward proxy? What is the difference between them? What is a load balancing? And how the Nginx has been fit into this place. How does it do the load balancing stuff on that? And how does it going to be the differences between the Nginx and Nginx Plus on that? How will we get the support on an Nginx Plus from the F5 place? Whether the Nginx is completely free? These are all the questions I'm going to answer that in the next coming slides. And as usual, at the end of the session, I'll be showing you some lab on this Nginx, which I already set it up on my own Ubuntu. And the 2 Tomcat servers I installed it in the CentOS box because I would like to show it in the multiple boxes or something, multiple Linux flavors. I'd like to show it on that. So I hope you guys will enjoy this session. Let us go to the one by one slide. Let me start the slides. Nginx. First, let's see what is a reverse proxy server. A reverse proxy server is an intermediate connection point positioned at the network's edge. It receives the initial HTTP connection request, acting like an actual endpoint. Essentially, your network's a traffic cop. It's like a police. So the reverse proxy serves as a gateway between the users and your application origin server. In doing it all handles all policy management of the traffic routing. A reverse proxy operates by receiving a user connection request, completing the TCP three-way handshake, terminating the initial connections, connecting with the origin server, and forwarding the original request. And this is like every other proxy server. This is how the reverse proxy is working. People are connected on the back end. They would like to go to that internet connections, something like that. No, this is actually the people are coming up on this. This is a reverse proxy. Here it goes like from the internet to the internet, it's getting the connection. So this is the reverse proxy goes on. So maybe this stuff will be a bit hard to understand. We will see the forward proxy. Reverse proxy versus forward proxy. In contrast, a forward proxy server is also positioned at your network edge, but regulates the outbound traffic according to the preset policies in shared networks. Additionally, it disguises a client's IP address and blocks the malicious incoming traffic. Forward proxy, this is what we all normally utilize in our own organizations like this. Forward proxies are typically used internally by a large organization, such as universities and enterprises, to block the employees from visiting the certain websites. We can block all the social networking websites, YouTube, Google, everything we block. Monitor the employee online activity. This is nothing but like kind of a policing. Block the malicious traffic from reaching the origin server, definitely. Improve the user experience by caching the external site content. This is more important because we would like to save a lot of bandwidth, timing, and the surfing time and other things. We can save a lot of bandwidth over there. This is called as a forward proxy. There's a forward proxy. People are there in the backend. They try to go to the internet. Through the forward proxy, they'll go. And the internet connection. There are a lot of web servers are connected on this. They will get the traffic back on this one. This is how they're getting connected on this. This is a forward proxy. Then what is load balancing? We are talking about a reverse proxy, and then we talk about the forward proxy, then what is load balancing? Because reverse proxy server are the gateway between the users and your application's origin server, they are able to determine where to route individual HTTP sessions. For applications using the multiple backend servers, this means the reverse proxy can efficiently distribute the load, thereby improving overall user experience and helping ensure the high availability. In the event of that server is goes down, reverse proxy acts as a failover solutions, rerouting the traffic to ensure the continuous site availability. Load balancing does everything. This is a load balancer. These are all the users who are coming through the load balancer. They are going for this and they are connecting to the multiple servers like this. So these are all like a group of, like you can say that server form. And this is one other server form like that. So according to the query which has been coming upon this query has been forwarded. These guys will be receiving only 1 or 2 URLs like that. Only the load balancer URLs they will be getting. Say for example, URL 1 dot something, URL 2 dot something, they will get it. When they getting the URL 1 or something, they will be working with these servers on this. When they're getting the URL 2 or something, they'll be working on this. Like, so this is nothing but a load balancing. Load balancing between the servers which are there already installed on the backend. What's the load balancing is going to do that? It is going to ease the load on the servers. Like not only one server is getting the every other load or something. Better to will displace, we will like distribute the load between the servers by introducing a new box before in between the user and the servers. That is nothing but the load balancing. So the load balancer is nothing but the reverse proxy, forward proxy, NATing it can do, HTTPS connections it can make on that, sticky it can monitor, and node-based connections, server-based connections, like that. So many other things. I will be seeing it in the next coming up slides. Content caching is also one form of like kind of a balancing things you can go. Reverse proxies are placed in several geographically dispersed locations where mirror versions of the website pages are compressed and cached. This facilitates the rapid content delivery based on the client geolocations, helping to reduce the page load times and improve your user experience. We have this in the AWS, like not only in AWS, all over, almost all the like cloud providers are providing this kind of a content caching. Content caching, we can call it as like a cloud front. In AWS, there is one service called as a cloud front, which does it all. Means if you are uploading your video into the original location, every other people all over the world will not come to the original location. They will be going into their own locations. For example, if the person is surfing from the South Africa, in the sense, he will go to the nearest data center. He doesn't come to the original location at all. Means it will mirror the versions of the website pages, compressed and cached. So cache is locally available. It doesn't need to come to the original location. So it is completely dispersing the complete traffic on that. So central point of failure will not happen. Say for example, AWS has got 140 locations are located on this. 140 countries or more than that also they have. So they will keep that cache in all the countries and other things. So local people from India, which they will be accessing from Mumbai. From Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and other people has to come to the Mumbai. There is no other way. And Singapore people can check it out in the Singapore itself. Hong Kong guys can check it out in Hong Kong. The same content which has been posted on Mumbai server that has been replicated in all over the world, and the people will be checking it in the locally. So that is nothing but a content cache. This is also one form of, I can say, load balancing stuff. Traffic scrubbing can be done. Located in front of your backend servers, reverse proxies are ideally situated to scrub all incoming application traffic before it's sent to your backend servers. So these are all, what do you say? You can call it as like a reverse proxies advantages we can take it as like. So this also we can discuss it in the load balancing stuff. How does the load balancer work? Define an IP or DNS name for the LB. That is the first point. We just need to do that. We have to give a static IP, or we just need to define one DNS name for it. This DNS name will be given to the people. Instead of giving the original server's URLs, we will give it to the DNS name of that. They will be accessing the DNS name only. When it has been accessing the DNS name, and people will be going for And the LB will be deciding that where to forward this traffic, whether it is a server 1 or a server 2 or something. So that's how it goes. Administrators define one IP address or a DNS name for a given application, task, or website, which all requests will come. This IP address or a DNS name is a load balancing server, corridors. Add a backend pool to this is the second point. Administrator will then enter into the load balancing server the IP addresses of all actual servers that will be sharing the workload for a given application or task. The pool of available servers is only accessible internally via the load balancer. The third one is like deploying the LB. Finally, your load balancer needs to be deployed either as a proxy, which sits in between your application servers and your users worldwide to accept all traffic, or as a gateway, which assigns a user to a server once and leaves the interaction alone thereafter. That this is nothing but a sticky session we talk about. Then the fourth, redirecting the requests. Once a load balancing system is in place, all requests to the application come to the load balancer and are redirected accordingly, administrates the preferred algorithm. This is what algorithm I'm talking about. Round robin, node-based, member-based, load-based. Many things we can work out with that. FI has got so many algorithm has been written, and they given many other things on the Nginx Plus also they given it. So first point is that how the load balancer is working. First is like we have to given a DNS name for the LB. Second one is we will be adding the backend pool. Pool will be containing the real servers. Third, deploying the LB with its own like a gateway or as a LB or as like a redirecting something like. We'll be doing the redirections on this. So this is the fourth steps we'll talk about this on the basically how the load balancer is working. Types of LBs. These are all the types. Layer 7 load balancing and layer 4 load balancing. We just need to understand the OSI model first because networking is a very basic stuff. Starting from the physical until going into the applications. Application layer, HTTP, HTTPS, SMTP, and all the stuff has been there. So this is called as the layer 7 load balancing. When you do balancing on these protocols, it is called as a layer 7 balancing. When you do something on the TCP and UDP level, that is called as a layer 4 load balancing. Layer 4 in the sense from 1 to 4. Layer 7 in the sense from 1 to 7. That's how it has to be taken. So layer 7 load balancing, layer 4 load balancing. Normal classical load balancers work until 4. Advanced things work until 7. That's the difference. Our Nginx can work until 7. Possible. Next, how the LB is working on layer 4, how the LB is working on layer 7. Front-end layer 4 LB ensures the service availability and scalability. SSL cache form and servers, M+1 servers, and wherever it goes on. And in the layer 7 LB, like a backend layer 7 LB ensures application availability and scalability. Here it is a service availability only, but this is an application scalability. Static content servers, application servers, we can give on anything like it, database servers and other things. Hardware load balancers are there, still there in the market. We are all installing only the hardware load balancers. Earlier, 5 years back, and all F5, Citrix load balancers, many other things are there. So hardware load balancers are specialized hardware deployed in between the server and the client. It can be a switching, routing hardware, or even dedicated system running on load balancing software with a specialized capabilities. The hardware load balancers are implemented on a layer 4 and a layer 7 of the OSI model. So prominent among this hardware are L4 to L7 routers it called. Hardware load balancer examples. These are all the load balancer examples. F5 is anywhere there is a number 1. Cisco System Catalyst. I doubt that whether this is still existing. Barracuda load balancer, Coyote Point load balancer, Citrix NetScaler. I worked on something called the ArrowPoint in some time back. I don't remember still. Okay, F5 still we are working on. Citrix still we are working on. You know, like hardware load balancers. We are still installing all these things on certain client places and all. So this is about the hardware load balancer. It means it will be a box dedicated, only doing the load balancing stuff. Nowadays, the market is completely changing. They are looking for software load balancers. Software load balancers generally implement on a combination of one or more scheduling algorithms. They are often installed on the servers and they consume the processor and memory of the servers. Like it is like an application is being installed. The following are the few examples of software load balancers. Okay, these are all the ones. HA proxy. It is a TCP load balancer. Nginx, we are going to discuss it very much heavily. Mode Athena, Apache based HTTP load balancer. Vanish, reverse proxy based load balancer. Balance, open source TCP load balancer. LVS, Linux virtual server offering layer 4 load balancing. These are all the examples which I given, like one of the engineers told some of the cPanel or something. He said that maybe like that is also been included. I don't know. Maybe I just need to dig it more. Something on that. But Nginx, we are going to talk about something more heavily. So what is the difference between hardware load balancer and software load balancer? Hardware load balancer is a proprietary box which has been sold by the companies. We just need to take it, buy it, and put it on some of the data centers and activate all these things with licensing and so many other stuff. Normally, all the corporate stuff need to be done on. But here in the software load balancer, we are going to install it on a server like a VM. Take it as a virtual machine only. Put it on there. Fi load balancer is also coming with the VM. That is a big IP OAuth, we normally call this OAuth file server. And every other people are coming with their own OAuth files, means like a software box, software application like that. We can take that F5 and we can install it in AWS. It's possible. As a third-party software like that, we can install it on a EC2 machine. EC2 means Elastic Cloud Computing. There is one other server, we just need to install it on that. And they will be having kind of, they will be coming up with the, the hardware specification for that, so that you will be getting the best performance from this online. So we just need to choose that. So, but I installed in my own, like, I just given only 4 GB for that, and 2 CPU or 4 CPU, I just only given that because my machine is only that much capability. But it still works because it's a demo purpose and showing it to the people only. Once it is going out of production, we'll go for a, like heavy configurations or something. So these are all the software load balancers, which we will be discussing only about Nginx this time. Okay, let's go to the next. What is Nginx? Nginx is an open source software for web serving, web serving, reverse proxying, caching, load balancing, media streaming, and more, and more. It's not only this much. It started out as a web server designed for maximum performance and stability. In addition to its HTTP server capabilities, Nginx also can function as a proxy server for email. You see that? Mailing also there. IMAP, POP3 and SMTP, and a reverse proxy and load balancer for HTTP, TCP and UDP server. HTTPS also have been included. So Nginx is like a whole bunch of software, whole bunch of things it can do that. Not only like load balancing, it can do web serving, means like a web server it can work out. Reverse proxying it can do, caching it can do, load balancing it can do, media streaming it can do, email proxying it can do, correct? And like a proxy server it can work on, so everything it can do. So Nginx is a web server. Goal behind Nginx was to create a fastest web server around, and maintaining that excellence is still central goal of the project. Nginx consistently beats Apache and other servers in a benchmarks measuring the web server performance. We have some kind of a benchmark performance and all tools are available. Take that and install the Apache web server and Nginx web server and run the same test simultaneously on both the servers and just compare the performance. Maybe like Nginx will be the best one. I didn't try that because I have not installed this. Nginx is a web server or something, but we are using it like a load balancer like that. So you can try that, not a problem. There are Apache web tools are there. Web tools are available. It's a free tool. It's like a command-based tools also available. You can take that and you can start running on that server to see that how much quickly the web server is responding. With a heavy load, also we can tune it up. Putting a heavy load on that, light load on that, medium load on that servers. Tools can be tuned in that way. Okay. Since the original release of the Nginx, however, websites have expanded from simple HTML pages to the dynamic, multifaceted content. Nginx has grown along with it and now supports all the components of the modern web, including WebSocket, HTTP2, gRPC, this is the new one, and streaming multiple video format, like HDS, HDLS, RTMP, and others. I'm not working on video things and all. Still, it can support that. Nginx beyond web serving, through Nginx become famous as the fastest web server. Scalable underlying architecture has proved ideal for many web tasks beyond serving content. Because it can handle high volume of connections, Nginx is commonly used as a reverse proxy and a load balancer to manage incoming traffic and distribute it to the slower upstream servers. Anything from legacy database servers to the microservices. Nginx is also frequently placed between the clients and second web server to serve as an SSL, TLS, terminator, or a web accelerator. Acting as an intermediary, Nginx efficiently handles the takes that might slow down your web server, such as negotiating. This is normally everyone does that. Dynamic sites built using anything from the Node.js to the PHP commonly deploy Nginx as a content cache and traffic reverse proxy to reduce the load on application servers. So many things it can do. What can Nginx and Nginx Plus can do for you? That's what. Nginx Plus and Nginx are the best in-class web server application delivery solutions used by the high traffic websites such as Dropbox. You see that? Dropbox is using that. Netflix is using that. Very important. Zynga is using that. More than 400 million websites worldwide rely on Nginx Plus and Nginx open source to deliver their content quickly. Nginx is nothing but a content only. We are all watching the Money Heist and the latest Hindi and all the. Yesterday I was watching that. Don't Look Up. There is something from the like Netflix only. It's a good movie. You can watch that. So that is also been controlled by the Nginx Plus something like. So as a software, only all-in-one load balancer, web server, API gateway, reverse proxy that is designed for a cloud-native architectures. Nginx helps you accelerate your IT infrastructure and application modernization efforts. Okay, they will put their own product like that because they will promote this. Nginx Plus delivers enterprise-grade capabilities that provide the robust reliability and security. Everyone talks about that. If you just go through all the brochures of everything, everyone will be very much fine-tuning their own sentence making on English. They'll go to their English classes and they'll come back and write all the lines of it. Like anyway, next, Nginx is a multifunction tool. With Nginx, you can use the same tool as a load balancer, reverse proxy, content cache, and web servers, minimizing the amount of tooling and configuration for your organization need to maintain. This is a very good point actually, because one-stop shop for all, everything. What you can do, load balancing you can do, reverse proxy you can do, content cache you can do, web server you can do, minimizing the amount of tooling and configuration purpose. This I can definitely agree for that. But again, we require a heavy memory and a processing power to run everything under one box. Anyway, you decide that when you're going for a designing solutions. Nginx offers a documentation and wide array of ebooks, webinars, and videos to get on your feet. Every other site is offering. There is no difference in that. Nginx Plus, it includes rapid response customer support. You can easily help diagnosing any part of your stack that uses Nginx or Nginx Plus. We never sought for any help and all because it is very easy to configure and maintain. Anyway, we may run into the issues and we'll get back to the support guys. Nginx keep evolving. For past decade, Nginx has been at the forefront of the development of the modern web, helped lead the way on everything HTTP2, that is a microservices support. As development and delivery of web applications continue to evolve, Nginx Plus keeps adding the features to enable flawless application delivery, from support for configuration using the implementation of JavaScript customized for Nginx, support the dynamic modules. Using Nginx Plus ensures you will stay cutting edge. These are all very common stuff. Everyone is making a blah blah. Okay, software load balancing. As a digital transformation strategist, coalesce into the reality. What is the meaning of it? Coalesce. You can just find out in the Google or something. Okay, maybe like coexisting, something like that. Maybe like I don't know. Nginx Plus helps the 5 typical use cases: upgrading from Apache, replacing the expensive hardware-based solutions, application modernization, cloud adoption, and moving into the microservices. What is microservices? Anyone knows what is microservices? That is nothing but the K8s they are talking. K8s means a Kubernetes services. Everything has been a containerized solutions nowadays. Where the hardware load balancers, hardware devices are failing is containerized things when it's coming up. Configuring those to get it tuned with, this, the kind of hardware things is very hard. So everyone is moving towards the software solutions for that. They are not looking for a, they're not looking for a hardware solutions for that. That's why everyone is looking for a software load balancing on this. So hardware-based application delivery controllers, hardware ADCs, means application delivery controller, were developed 20 years ago and as a solution to get most out of the high-cost first generation web servers. But the world has moved from dramatically racks of expensive servers needing specialized devices to quickest performance, optimize the performance, dramatically reduce the cost without sacrificing the features or performance. Moving to DevOps, that is more important, requires a software app delivery, deploy everywhere with one ADC solution, application delivery controlling, adapt quickly to changing the demands of your applications, no artificial or contract driven constraints on performance. That is what I'm telling them. If you like to increase the bandwidth, you just need to get the license. If you like to increase your user size, user applications or something, per user license, you just need to look for that. Like so many other stuff has been there. When the things are getting slower and other things, you just need to upgrade the hardware inside that your FI or other boxes or something. You just need to buy it from the vendor only. Then it is a heavy cost. You cannot just buy it from the local market and replace it. It's not possible. But it's the same thing like if I have some VMware server which is running on, I can upgrade the RAM without any problems. It's very easy for me. So like so many other advantages are also there when you're going for a software solution or something. Okay, let's see something. Nginx Plus load balancers, how do they work? Balancing your network traffic across the servers, clients, and proxies is key to keeping your customers happy and optimizing your infrastructure, blah, blah. Again, Nginx Plus high performance load balancing, because I took all this from the Nginx Plus, websites. Anyway, you can scale out and provide the redundancy, enable the global server balancing, that is a GSLB, session persistence, active health checks, dynamically reconfigure your infrastructure without need to restart. This is more important. No need to restart anything. Even in normal solutions, whichever we are trying to give it from the Linux platform, no need to restart anything at all. It's all module based. Okay, Nginx Plus load balancers, not only HTTP traffic, but also TCP and UDP. This is some of the diagram you can just see there. Load balancing methods. This is available already with the F5, Citrix, and everywhere. Even AWS has also started offering nowadays with their own elastic load balancing stuff, something. So what we can see, round robin, that is a default. By default, if you don't configure anything, it is a round robin. Distribute the requests across the upstream servers in an order. Okay, least connections. Forward the request to the server with the lowest number of the active connections. Whichever the server is having the less connections, he will be having the more queries to be sent. Least time. Forwards the queries to the least loaded server based on calculation that combines response time and number of active connections. Exclusive to Nginx Plus. Okay, they developed only for this. Hash distributes the request based on a specified key. For example, client IP address or a request URL. Nginx Plus can optionally apply a consistent hash to minimize the redistribution of the loads if the set of upstream servers changes. IP hash, it's available only as HTTP. Distribute the request based on the first 3 octets of your client IP address. Random with the 2 choices. Picks 2 servers at random and forwards the request to the one with the lower number of active connections. Least connection method. With Nginx Plus, least time method can also be used. Like these are all the algorithms which we can select on Nginx Plus. Okay, so go through that. We have, see, it depends on the customer's mindset. That is most important. First of all, everyone will say that no, let us go with round robin only. It's enough for us. I can say that touch wood, 85 to 90% of the load balancers are working with the round robin only. That is a real hardest fact I would like to say you guys. But other things are also there. I would like to try it out with some other thing, but customer doesn't agree. Anyway, you talk to your customers. Next, advantages on software load balancing. Is there some, technical stuff, some kind of, I would like to give you some theoretical stuff, then I'll show you the practicals on this. So what are the advantages on this? Dramatically reduce the cost without sacrificing the feature or performance. You can save 70% of the same price performance with the Nginx Plus versus lower end FI, big IP system or a Citrix NetScaler system or a similar hardware without sacrificing things. Moving to DevOps requires a software app delivery. And applications move to the continuous integration and continuous delivery. That is a CI/CD. And as teams restructure to make that rapid deployment possible, waiting delays or weeks for changes in hardware ADC is unimaginable. Only software delivers rapid configuration, ease of flexibility, and application level control to that DevOps requires. Deploy everywhere with one ADC solution on a bare metal, cloud, container, and more. As a software solution designed to run on hardware and on virtualized instances, Nginx Plus works in the same way on all platforms, container friendly, on premises, and on public, private, hybrid cloud, making the deployment flexible and easy. Adapt quickly for changes demands on your application. No waiting for special hardware, installation, and configuration when traffic is rising. This is what more important nowadays because we are all working on e-commerce sites, social networking sites. Like that requires that traffic is a very tremendous and unpredictable. When it is goes high, no one knows it. During the festival times and all, it will be so much peak, so much it will be in a peak like a corona. Software allows you to quickly install, configure, scale up or scale out, responding to the demands on your applications in the real time. No artificial or contract-driven constraints on the performance. Hardware ADCs cap throughput based on your contracted costs, then hit you so hefty upgrade fees when traffic breaks through the cap. So it means you sealed it like a 25 GB, sorry, not a 25 GB. 1 Gbps bandwidth you got that, but 1 Gbps has been already attained because of the heavy traffic or something. You would like to increase that bandwidth on your own hardware solution. You just need to pay a hefty amount to the hardware vendor, but that is not the case in the software load balancing. Software-based solutions have no artificial limits. They're calling it as an artificial. Simply upgrade the underlying hardware or virtualize the computing power to unlock the greater performance. Say goodbye to the heavy fees for the traffic increases. So this is again like like explaining so heavily about that dramatically increasing and other things. Both business and IT team owe to themselves constantly seek out opportunities to decrease the cost of operating system costs. Software-based solutions easy to scale up. Software-based solutions are roughly 70% less than hardware ADCs. Same performance at gives. Moving DevOps requires a software app delivery. CI/CD can be performed, and it can go with any automation tools also. That is more important, such as Ansible, Chef, and Puppet. Chef and Puppet nobody uses now. We are all using Ansible and more of Python we are using it. So when you're going for a automation things on your network automation, server automation, application automations, database automations, everything is been the operating system automation also is come. Why, for what, no one knows, but it is still there. So in that case, your ADCs may fail. So we can go along with that, Nginx Plus. Okay. So go for Nginx Plus, buy Nginx Plus. Okay, deploy everywhere with the one ADC solution. Legacy ADCs have a bigger problem in today's world of flexible deployment options. To address this, some hardware ADC vendors stripped the software out of their devices and ported it for use in the cloud and containers. However, complaint from many users is that software tools were not designed for virtualized infrastructure. They run on. You see that very important point. What I can say that FI is giving the software only environment as a load balancer. Okay, we buy that and we install it in an AWS and it is running on. But many other customers are saying that it is not working as per expected because it is not working in the hardware of where we are going to install it. It is not suitable for all the hardwares where we are. It is not flexible as such. It is being designed only for the FI hardware. It has to work on that. FI software will work on FI hardware. That's how it has been working on. So we are used to do that. The Cisco routers can be, simulated in a GNSA environment or something, but doesn't give the performance as in the Cisco hardware like that. So the same problem we are facing over here. So to remove this one, software load balancers we just need to go for. But designed for a beginning from run on the day today's dynamic virtualized architecture. In fact, was built to be deployed in any environment, whether on bare metal, in public, private cloud, hybrid infrastructures, anywhere we can install it because it is a hardware independent. It's not a hardware dependent. It is a hardware independent software. Then changing environment to your application, hardware ADCs suffer from two big deployment hurdles. First is the need to order, receive, install, configure new hardware load balancer, or two for high availability deployments. High availability in the sense one ADC fails in the sense other ADC will take over. This you just need to buy 2 boxes and you need to make the daisy chaining or like some kind of arrangements need to be made for that. Then ordering that, then looking for a price, like negotiating the price and getting that. It'll take 10 to 15 days for you to deliver the product. After the product has been delivered, it need to be like send it to the customer site, installing it out, taking 1,000, like the approvals has to be come from different managers. Just need to go ahead and install it, and you just need to take the remote control of all these things and configuring it. It takes at least 1 month for your installation to complete, but that is not the thing in the software load balancer. Second hurdle is that constantly ask the network operations to have hard to implement the configuration changes, which often take days, because again it has to go through a lot of approvals again, and we just need to create a change ticket to perform all the actions and also. So these are all like hardware implementation problems, but software application delivery, avoiding both kind of problems. There is no waiting to order, receive specialized hardware. There is no need to ask another team for a configuration change. Everything you can do that. That's how they are killing all the implementation engineers. I am an implementation engineer. Actually, I just used to design that. Now I am working on more of a DevOps platform. Why? For what? Because of the market demands. You just need to work on it the same way. Okay, so you can install, configure new servers and instances immediately, and you can scale up or out in real time, even automatically. It is no artificial or contract driven constraints on performance. This already we've seen that, but anyway, there's more explanations on this. So capping is there, as that's what I was saying. When you breach this limit, pricing steps up to a new level, increasing in the customer traffic to your site are offset by sudden, sharp, hard to predict increases in the cost. Underlying problem is that hardware does not scale. That is a problem. We just need to go on upgradation of the hardware. Software load balancers like ADCs have no artificial performance or throughput limitations. And with the software being cheaper, implementation incremental costs are associated with the grower much lower and highly predictable. Growth is once again benefit, not a problem. Very good, very good. Like this is a very good what do you say? It's a very nice sentence. It is. Growth is once again a benefit. It's not a problem. An entry-level Nginx Plus offers 4 times the throughput of an F5 BIG-IP entry-level system, at less than 1/6 of the price comparisons, because all the PMPs will work on only on the cost-based things. So similarly, an entry-level Nginx Plus systems offer 40 times the throughput of NetScaler entry-level system at roughly 1/4 of the price. That is the difference between the more than 20 times in price performance for the throughput. So you have a lot of advantages over choosing the software load balancers. Okay. How Nginx is changing the application delivery? User demands, companies increase, business goals become more complex. In which way we deliver the must keep pace, and the need for load balancing grows rapidly. New scales of software and other things. At the same time, Nginx steadily increasing the market share, both as widely used as a web server and for load balancing. Nginx is now used by more than 60% of the top 10,000 busiest websites publicly. And Nginx Plus adds the features like make performance, load balancing make easier, more reliable, more manageable. On the long run, choosing a software-based application delivery platform saves a tremendous time, money, and effort, while resulting in application designed for optimal performance. The business as a whole benefits from this approach for better application perform and more successful they become. Okay, so this is about that I would like to show you on this. So this is my contact number and my YouTube channel. Like you can go and watch this video. I will be uploading this video in next half an hour, because I just need to make some small arrangements for this one. Then I will be uploading this one, and you can tell your friends to talk to me for any kind of training or sessions or something, anything like cloud, networking platform, load balancing, Linux, and network automations and anything on this. And you can subscribe to my channel, and you can you can inform your friends also to subscribe to my channels on this. And if you have any questions on this, this particularly on Nginx or normal load balancing on F5 or Citrix or something, because I'm working on all the products as well. So if you have any questions, then you can ask me. Go ahead and ask me. It's all yours. Please upload. Need to watch again. Yeah, Sanjay, definitely. I will do that. Definitely. This will be in our next half an hour. It will be available on my YouTube channel. You can share it with your friends. Not only you just watch. Please share it with your friends, your colleagues, and your relatives. Okay, and tell them to hands on. I'll just show you now. I'll just show you because I am just looking for some VGS is asking from iPhone. Okay, good. Got an iPhone, very nice. Okay, I will be showing you something on that because already the servers are up and running. I'll show you. If you have any questions, please ask me. And before that, can you give me your email addresses so that I can send you this PPT which I made for this one? Like, I'll send you the PPT and the recording session video link to all your people initially. As a first, you will be receiving that. Then the other people will be receiving that. So you can send me that. You can send me your email address only. Not the phone number is not required. Don't worry. I'll not call you. I don't have a time to call you all. Okay, because I have a lot of other works or such. But mailing, I'll just shoot it out. That's not an issue big for me. So it's not a big issue for me. So yeah, thank you. Peter is giving me. Yes, I will surely. I'm sorry, very sorry. With my office people too. Yeah, good, nice. Abdul has given. Peter has given. Sanjay has given. Other people also can give it. No issues. There won't be any promotional mails and other things will not come. This is not a sales and other thing. I'm not doing that anything as such. Okay. Give it to me, all the people. I'll be showing you in just a couple of minutes. I'll show you that. Before that, if you have any questions on this, any doubts on this, like there is a small diagram in the back end. You see that there is an Nginx controller is centralized teams, lines of business. Your pipeline is coming on this code. Okay. Any Grafana session? Grafana? Can you speak, Sanjay? Please. You're just asking only in the chat. You can unmute your mic and you can talk. Discuss it. No, this is a discussing session only. It's not only like monologue. It's a dialogue. I would like to see. If it is interacting, it will be much,
It's a monitoring tool. Hi.
Okay, it's a monitoring tool.
So I just
Okay, what I'll be monitor with that?
Yeah, everything we can monitor by this tool. There's a Linux-based tool.
Okay.
It can be from Windows.
Right.
So I just want to learn this because this is an open source application and as well as based on cloud.
Okay, so I got to know
there are multiple things in this.
Because we are using that Nagios we use that. I guess you may be knowing about Nagios.
I know.
Yeah, Nagios we normally use it, and all the clouds has got their own kind of CloudWatch or something like Cloud Monitor, something they have their own stuff. And HP OpenView has already been there because I'm from the network background, so we've been using on HP OpenView. Grafana may be a new tool. Let me try it out. What actually it holds, I can try that for, not an issue. And any other questions? Thanks for introducing me the new, the tool or something like that. I'll just go and see it. If it is a open source platform in the sense, definitely I'll download and I'll see that. No issues. Yeah. Any other questions from? Yeah, thank you. Any other questions from anyone about this Nginx Plus, and F5 static load balancers? See, I used to offer many kind of trainings as well, like a networking based training, like automation trainings, like Ansible and Python, which I do that. And Kafka is been on the line, so I need to work on Kafka also. Kafka is also available on network automations. They're saying that. And the cloud platform, I work on Azure, I work on AWS, I work on Google Cloud. I can talk about those things. FI completely the load balancing solutions, Citrix load balancing solutions, and administration part, network, like Linux administration part, I can work on. Like any kind of a training, if you're looking for it, just come back to me. I will be producing. I'll be giving you that. Not an issue. Okay. I guess there is no more questions as such. I will start showing you some of the labs which I made it. Okay. So let me open my an Ubuntu I install. There's an Ubuntu I install, and the CentOS 1 and CentOS 2 is running on this. Okay, Ubuntu, I'll show it on this one. I'll be logged into this. So this is a Ubuntu system. I guess everyone can see my screen. I shared it already. Postname CTL. So this is a Ansible Ubuntu. And the name I kept it as like an Ansible. It's an Ubuntu box. It's a computer VM. And this is a virtualization on VMware. Installed it VMware only. Operating system is Ubuntu 18.4. Now 20 has come and the kernel is also been changed now. See, the kernel is 4.15. I'm running on this. 5 has come. The people are saying that I just need to try on that. So this is running on this, and this is the Nginx directory. If I just say that the Nginx directory, it's pretty simple to install. You know, like the tar file which is available, that is a tape archive we normally call it as. That is available on the Nginx site. You can go and download it normally. After that, you just need to install it and untar it, and you just need to install that one. Some prerequisites are there. You can go through that site and you can install it all. And this is an nginx.conf. Before making any changes on the original conf, just make a small copy of it. That will be better, because if you screw the things, you can put back the original back into the modules. And the modules which are available, modules which are enabled on this, sites which are available, sites are enabled, the snippets, you know, right? And the fast CGA also possible, config.d. And these are all the things. And Nginx conf I would like to show you on this. Let me do nano. It's very easy for people to go with the nano, but we are all using the nginx.conf. So this is the configuration file. Okay, these are all by default. It has been coming up on this, including the card. From here, the conf module has been, all the enabled module will be coming up from this directory. Worker connections on 768. How many connections can be made on this? This is a HTTP. This is going to be the servers which I am going to do the load balancing stuff. A simple one, HTTP connection. For HTTP only I done that. HTTPS also we can do. These are all the two servers which are running with the web services. That is nothing but your CentOS 1 and CentOS 2, Tomcat 1 and Tomcat 2. And the servers which are running on the port number 1990 and 1991, like that. So these two servers which are going to be grouped under the Tomcat servers, like the upstream Tomcat servers. So the server, this is the IP address of my server, means the Nginx server, it is a load balancer I can call. 10.2.135, that is the location is on this. On proxy pass, this is going to do the proxying as well as load balancing stuff on this. For Tomcat service, it is doing that. This is a very simple configuration, very basic configuration only I done that. We can do a lot. We can do a lot. Definitely, I'm telling you, we can do a lot. Only this much I've done that. So once you start doing this hashing, in the sense, this will not be executed while the configuration is running on this. You can see this. Send file on, push bucket, include the Nginx MIME type. SSL settings, we can do that. SSL protocol, this much has been available on this SSL. Logging settings, we can have some access logs on this. Who are all accessing, how much it has been coming up on the errors and other things. gzip settings, gzip proxy, we can do that. Virtual host settings and mailing. This is what I was saying, that you can do the SMTP mailing also. Top, IMAP, it is listening on the port number 110. There is an IMAP, POP3, localhost and all these things. So this much is a very simple configuration of on the Nginx. So let me come back on this one. So I would like to start this service. I'll just say systemctl start Nginx. So now it has been started. If you'd like to see the status of this Nginx, see status Nginx. It may take some time, then it will be showing us. Probably it will be showing, maybe. Let's see. Status Nginx. Yeah, it is running. You can see that active running. This line is very important. It's active running. High performance web server and the reverse proxy server loaded, active running. If you like to see the manual, you can just see the manual Nginx on this. And the process number and other thing it's been given. This is the Linux form. So that's why it is saying that. And here the user has been Nginx. This is the daemon is on, master process is on. It's saying now you see that what time it has been added. 10:34 only, it has been started already. Starting a high performance web server and a reverse proxy server. Starting, then started, means it has been running now. Currently it has been running on that. And what all the services it is going to manage there? These are all the two services it is managing. These are all the two servers it is managing. This is a Tomcat 1. Let me see this. What is the host name? I'll just show you this. This is one of the web server which I am running on CentOS 7. I like that CentOS very much because we are working on more on Red Hat platform on many web servers are running on Red Hat platform as well as in CentOS servers also. And CentOS 7, I'm using the Linux version, kernel version is this. This is a 64-bit module on this. Name I given is like a Tomcat, this like this. So this is Apache Tomcat directory where I install it. This is also coming as like a GC format. We can, I can unzip it and we can start using this. This is a directory where it has been the web apps we can create. It's a Tomcat web server I'm running on this. Bin directory contains all the startup and start, shutdown script and other things. Conf directory, we can go and configure this web server. Library files will be stored, logs will be here. Running text and all, you can see that. We just go to that conf directory, you can see what is the conf configurations. This is a Catalina. I would like to talk about this Tomcat once, maybe like next week, I'll just talk about this. And server XML. This is a server XML where your Tomcat server is being controlled by this XML. This is a web XML, like context XML, like all XML format files only do this. If I like to see that cat server XML, I can type this. This is your server XML file. We need to modify that. Okay. Okay, no problem. This is a server XML on this. LSL I will do. And if you like to see the cat, I'll just say web XML, you can just see the web.xml. I need to put the full name. It's a heavy page. You don't need to see this much of this. LSL, Catalina, the other things are there. Let us go back to the other stuff. And on the web apps, we can run all the web apps on this because it is a Java based things. We can build our own demo web and other things and all, like host manager, root and other things and all these things are there. Web apps we can create on this one. And the CD bin, if you go there, this is a binary executable file. Here we have the shutdown and the startup SSH. SSH means is a shell executable file. Binary executable file. I just need to say that startup.sh. It's saying means a server is being started using the Catalina base, Catalina home, Catalina temp directory. We need to tune this, okay? Where the files are located on this, accordingly, we just need to tune this. If you like to shut down, you can just say star./shutdown. This is the second server. I would like to show you, it's already been in the bin directory. Similar, same server it is actually. This is the second server, I can just say that. So it's the same serial, I'll show you. Same Tomcat 2, this is also CentOS 7, Linux 3.0 and x86-64 platform. Okay. And all these things are there. Then again, we can see that the configuration file over there, server XML and other things you cannot see. And if you like to see that, where is the directory, we can see like this. And CD, web apps, and root directory when you go. This is the file which is going to show you when you would like to access this web server, in the sense index.jsp will be shown. Index.jsp. This is the file which is going to be showing. Okay. It's in a, it's in a text format, so you are seeing very much nagging because it's an XML file will be like this always. So this is the page is going to get displayed. This page is displayed from the server on 10.2.141. This is the IP address of this server. And I can just come back to this one. I can go to this other folder, CD web apps and root at index.jsp. And this page will be like a 10.1.140, 10.2.2.40. Yeah. You see this. When I am accessing this server, it will be saying the 10.2.2.40. When I am accessing this server, it will be showing the 10.2.2.141. Means our Nginx load balancer is going to do the load balancing between these two servers. I'll be getting the reply from this server first, then I'll be getting the reply from the second server on this. Like that. So this is nothing but that the one. How I would like to access this server? I can access it from this. This is a Zoom. So I'll go for http://10.2.2.135. That is my that is my Nginx server. When I press that, you see that it's coming. This page is displayed from Tomcat 1 server. If I do the refresh, I'll be seeing the second page. I'm seeing the second page. I refreshed it. Either you can refresh it from here, or you can just see that Control F5. If I do that, Tomcat server 1, then Tomcat server 2, because of the caching, it will be saying that. So I want the caching by saying Control F5. Tomcat server 2, you just see this page. Okay. Then Tomcat server 1, here Tomcat server 2, here Tomcat server 1, like this. So now the load balancing stuff is perfectly working on Apache Tomcats. Apache Tomcat need to be, like this is a web server only. Apache normally we do the HTTP server like that, but Tomcat is being developed in the Java server, another Java something has been included on that, so you can do a lot of many stuff. My like programmers can do a lot of on this one, but I know how to set it up and give it to them, and they will be working on that. We can also develop the app, see, managing the host manager, server status, everything we can see on this. So this is about the Nginx. Okay. So if you have any questions on this, you can ask me. And as usual, you can inform it to your people's friends, colleagues, relatives to subscribe to my channel. So every week, I would like to give it to you some of the new chapter, not to speak about the old things again and again. I would like to talk about some of the new chapters as well. And I would like to request you that please inform your friends and colleagues to subscribe to my channel to see the new latest content on the technical. It's a completely pure technical channel only, no entertainment over there. Okay, and thanks for the people who joined today and been with me for this whole entire session. And you hope you enjoyed these sessions. And people who are watching on this YouTube, please put all your questions and queries on the comment section. And I will be answering whenever I'm getting the time. Maybe like within a day or two, I'll be giving the answers for you. And please subscribe to my channel. It's a completely free channel only. And please see this, the email address has been given on that. If you like to have this PPT to get delivered to your inbox, in the sense, you can send me an email on this stuckroute@gmail.com. We'll send you the PPT to you all, guys. Okay, then thanks all everyone to join these sessions today. And if you have any further questions, if you forget to ask something, you can send an email or you can call me on this number or WhatsApp me directly on this one. I'm ready to help you. Thank you very much for joining the sessions. I'm going to end that session. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you.